Dr. Chalamai Reddy has an innate passion for innovation in education, exploring enriching practice. Okay, this I've already said. This is my experience as well. So let's skip that. She was a student of Sri Aurobindo International Center of Education in Pondicherry till 1977. She graduated from Ohio University in 1984. She received her PhD in 1991 from the Department of English at Pondicherry University, where she completed her thesis on the future poetry, Sri Aurobindo's critique on poetry. So 30 years experience as the principal of Sri Aurobindo International School, and she planned and executed the transition of the CBSE school to an integral education model as envisioned by Sri Aurobindo in 1992. And this vision is what has developed into the NEP. So it's in part that the National Education Policy 2020, which is, extremely progressive if India is able to implement it. So she's also founder of the residential school, New Creation, a free progress school that was started in 2015. And that is sort of where I went. And we have a small clip of the campus. Maybe we can just look at it at the end. So I'll give it to Chaladi.
Use this, or can I have that? That would be easier. Can you hear me? Namaste, Shubhodayam, bonjour, and good morning. First, would like to express my deepest gratitude, of course, to the Divine Mother for creating this wonderful opportunity for me to be here in Auroville. So thank you, Sanjeev and Jyoti, for enabling me to be here this morning with all of you. Auroville, the connection of Auroville for me has been right since its inception. I was in 68, I was just 9 years old when I was here for the foundation. It's always been a dream. I tell myself, sort of console myself saying, I'm one life away from being in Auroville. At this point, I'm very, very envious of all of you who are here, who live here, who work in Auroville. It's the best place to be on this earth, according to me. So I feel very humbled to be given this chance to share the journey that I've gone through being part of a school and then later on the second school. I am here, although Sanjeev kept saying I'm the keynote speaker, I don't feel that way being amidst you. I am very much a traveler on the same path of education as any one of you here. I have grown through all these 32 years being associated and working in the schools. That's what it is all about. To grow as a person through the journey that we take up upon ourselves. So teachers, you are in the field. Yes, I have been also teaching for a few years. I taught English to the high school students. I taught French to the high school students. But later on, I had to shift to become an administrator and overview the running of the school, which is very different from being a teacher. And I give that all the credit to the teachers to really do hands-on work in the field. Just a week back, for about 3 weeks, I had my 3 grandchildren come from Singapore, twins of 4 years, 4-year-olds, and the elder one 8 years. That's when I realized what it is to be with children, especially young ones. It's quite something to speak about the vision, the concept. It is very important because the vision has to guide the action. But at the same time, very essential for a teacher, very difficult for a teacher, challenging on a daily basis to be able to translate that vision into practice. So, well, it was quite a task for me. 3 kids at home. And after a very, very long time, I took off from school and I was totally with them. So I used to be challenged every day as how I could engage in play, which is actually learning for them as well as for me. I would like to share the most, according to me, very fundamental concept of what integral education stands for. So I will be running through some of the core concepts. So they will be a little brief. And at the end of my talk, I will share with you what we are doing at school in Hyderabad. Many a times what happens is, yes, sorry, I hope everyone knows about the title of the talk. It's called Unfolding of Divine Potential. So that's where I would like to start sharing thoughts in regarding to this. We have to, as teachers of integral education, keep very close to ourselves the book on education by Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, and go back to it because that is the source of inspiration and that is the source of guidance for the action which takes place at schools. So all these years, of course, I'm sure it is the experience of one and all, that every time we read texts written by the Mother and Sri Aurobindo and any other great spiritual person, we find new meaning in what we read. Because we grow in the light of what we read, and when we return back to the content, there is something new which reveals itself. So I started the journey of reading these books right since, as I said, last 30-35 years. And well, I'm very glad to admit that really I have been able to grow in the light of what I have read. And I'm looking forward to growing more. But I was able to come across what I'm going to read now as something which really came as a flash when about a year, 2 years back, I was really trying to put my finger on what is the core of what Sri Aurobindo is saying. It's right there, but as I said many times, we just pass it, we read, but then we don't pay attention. So, Unfolding of Divine Potential, why I have selected this title is because of this sentence that Sri Aurobindo writes very explicitly. The chief aim of education should be to help the growing soul to draw out that in itself which is best and make it perfect for a noble use. I'll read it again. The chief aim of education should be to help the growing soul to draw out that in itself which is best and make it perfect for a noble use. This is part of the second principle of teaching. The essay where he writes, where he mentions the three principles of teaching, and this comes in the second principle. Everyone has in him something divine, something his own, a chance of perfection and strength which God offers him to take or refuse. That is Sri Aurobindo. He always gives a scope for refusing as well. It's always an open choice. Everyone has in him something divine, something his own, a chance of perfection and strength, which God offers him to take or refuse. The task is to find it, develop it, and use it. Great spiritual leaders think alike, and I'm going to quote Swami Vivekananda. By education, I mean the all-round drawing of the best in child and man, in body, mind, and spirit. The all-round drawing the best in the child and man in body, mind, and spirit. Sri Aurobindo continues, he says, the business of both parent and teacher is to enable and to help the child educate himself. So the educate himself is something that we are going to return upon time and again through what I'm going to speak today. Auroville, the mother starts first by saying, if I'm wrong, please correct me. The first school was named as the last school. Am I right? Yes? Yes. I think that is something which pretty much says it all. You see, the mother and Sri Aurobindo, they represent, they stand, they embody a future which is very, very, very ahead. Ashram school started in 43, established fully from 53. She commences the free progress system early 60s. Already something which is of a complete breakthrough from the old colonial education which has been running in India since last 100, 200 years. Since, thanks to Macaulay, he completely destroyed our old traditional Gurukula system where education was thriving in India. But look at what the mother starts with in Auroville. It's hard enough for the practice of something that she named as the Free Progress School, which of course is also the essence, the core, the future of what integral education will move towards, needs to move towards. So in the ashram, I also was part of that journey. For a few years, I was a student in the Free Progress School. Before that, of course, we have the ashram school itself, which is integral in its nature, with so much of freedom and joyous learning. And then there was this experiment going on of free progress learning, where the mother clearly says it is to be directed by the soul. So already she pitches herself to a very high level of consciousness in relation to trying to work out, unfold the whole vision of integral education. And then Auroville starts with the last school. And then I think no school. And then I don't really know what else. After school. As I said, she really paces herself very far into the future. But that is very important, because that would indicate the direction in which we need to move. Because the child in the paradigm of integral education is a soul in evolution. Hence, we need to address the discovery and developing of the deeper self of a child, nurturing the soul consciousness of a child. In the old school, of course, we addressed the all-round growth in different ways, even in the formal schools, other than those in the ashram and Auroville. I'm talking of the formal model of education in India. Yes, it is important for all the aspects, all the schools, all the subjects to be taught. And now national education policy is coming in more and more increasingly to address the all-round development of a child. But largely the present education addresses itself only to the transference of the quantity of information to a child. So there needs to be a big shift from purely inducing information and maybe partly processing that information to really addressing the nurturing of the highest potential, the divine potential in a child. So the mother has given us this choice. So schools like in the ashram and especially in Auroville, the task is to rediscover the sacred and true meaning of life through psychic education. So that needs to be addressed. That needs to be, we need to inform ourselves of what it is. We need to educate ourselves of what it is. And we need to constantly be inspired by what it means to be able to, work towards that direction in our schools. So hence we need to adapt a new approach and definitely a different kind of an attitude towards the child, where we address the inner psychological change in the child. So Auroville in itself, we all know, is the cradle of a new world, of a new creation. Hence, it is imperative that we adapt and we practice, put into practice this new vision of education. And this new vision of education, again, lies in this of what Sri Aurobindo says, the chief aim of education to be, to draw out the divine potential of a child, to be able to create a context and environment where the divine potential of the child starts progressively surfacing more and more. So, hence, we need to be very sure and we need to be very clear that integral education means the growth and development, the progress of the child's consciousness, and the values based on that kind of a consciousness growth. Values based on trying to live a higher life. That should be the focus. That should be the attention. Basically, to self-exceed, to enable ourselves to self-exceed, to enable the child to self-exceed the humanness in him and her, to be able to grow into the divine nature, into their own divine nature. Again, to go back saying that yes, knowledge of the external world, learning all the subjects is required and it is very important. Why? Because the mother has been very clearly explaining that the mind, the vital, and the physical need to be perfected in order to express the psychic, to address the development of the psychic, for us to connect with it, to enable the child to connect with the highest in him and her, is of course at the center of integral education, but without neglecting the perfecting of the instruments of the mind, the vital, and the physical. I think Sri Aurobindo himself is a great example, his own life. 14 long years where he really went through a lot of hardships and he excelled in every field that he took up as a study, to be able to return with that perfection of instruments, to be able to manifest the highest divine vision. So the discipline of the training cannot be compromised. But that kind of a discipline and training of the outer personality cannot be legitimate for purely the aggrandizement of the ego, because that's what happens. The outside world has very accomplished personalities who are very well equipped, very well trained in the academics, in the intellectual abilities, great artists, great musicians in the field of the vital domain, and of course, in the physical, we have great athletes. But the direction of that training is more for the aggrandizement of the ego. And in integral education, that has to be completely replaced to be in the service of expressing the psychic, in being able to manifest the psychic qualities of truth through the mind, of goodness through the feelings, and of beauty through the physical. So education needs to uplift, the education that we are talking about needs to uplift the individual from his humanness to enable the child to blossom his divine potential. So the outer development needs to correspond with the higher aims of life. So that's the paradigm shift. Not per se training of the different faculties of the mind, but to be able to make the training of the mental faculties in the service of expressing the higher and the highest truth. Hence, the whole of the being, that is the outer, has to align with the inner, needs to develop, not at the exclusion of one and the other, We cannot pay attention only to the growth, the progress of the psychic, nor can we just pay attention to the training and development of the outer personality. So the aim is to develop an integral personality. That is why integral education. I think, needless to say, we all understand this, that education is life itself. It cannot be contained only to the classroom and to the books. It is 24/7, 365 days. That is what education is all about in the light of integral education. Coming next to the child. What is it that the mother says can be given to the child as a teacher? She says the best gift that a teacher can give to a child is to love to learn. Create the love to learn. That is the main goal, aim of every teacher. Should be the aim of every teacher. Always, everywhere, every moment of life. That is why I said there is no education limited only to the classroom or the textbooks. Every experience is a learning. It becomes renewed opportunities to learn and relearn. It is something like, making every day, one's daily way, a kind of sacred pilgrimage. When we travel to a pilgrimage, the sense of sacredness of what we carry with us, if that is the attitude and that is the mindset that we have as teachers when we come into the school and or we interact with children anywhere and everywhere, every moment is a discovery. That is very essential of the vision of integral education. To be able to count the blessings and the grace on a daily basis, to be able to experience the delight of life, the sense of wonder. This is something we have completely lost in the traditional formal schooling. Any subject is full of miracles. STEM subjects, I think, are the most filled with miracles. But we somehow have forgotten that. Biology, the study of the body. Can there be anything more miraculous than that? Physics, knowledge of the universe and its laws. It just blows our mind out. Chemistry, the magic of alchemy. And of course, mathematics itself. Pure abstraction and yet so practical. I think that's what, I don't remember who, but mathematics, metaphysics, and music, was it Plato or Aristotle who said, really are the most important subjects? Metaphysics, music, and mathematics. So the teacher needs to be able to bring in that sense of wow factor in the teaching. Love to learn. How are you going to make the child to love to learn otherwise? If it's something very pragmatic and practical and something which the child just feels has to be remembered, recollected, memorized. No child wants it. And I'm sure in Auroville you have that experience. All the more because children have grown in this atmosphere of freedom. They will not be able to take it. It is only then that learning can become truly joyous. The third, very, very important, I've been constantly speaking about the core vision and then the child. According to me, at the very core of education is not only the child, but more so the teacher. Everything that has been mentioned till now would firstly apply to teachers. Let me read this quote from the mother. Essentially, the only thing you should do, she's of course addressing the teachers, is to teach them, of course that is the children, to know themselves and choose their own destiny, the path they will follow, to teach them to look at themselves, understand themselves, and to will what they want to be. She's directly addressing it to teachers. Essentially, the only thing you should do assiduously is to teach them, that is the children, to know themselves and choose their own destiny, the path they will follow, to teach them to look at themselves, understand themselves, and to will what they want to be. Now, obviously, for the teacher, it is this understanding that becomes the guiding light in her work with children. The mother has made it very clear as to how and what the teachers need to do in the integral education classroom. Well, of course, it would mean the teacher herself needs to launch on this journey of self-discovery. She needs to be a seeker of her own soul. Unless the teacher launches on this discovery of self, how can we expect the teacher to understand anything about the child? The teacher needs to grapple with her own frailties, insecurities, desires, so on and so forth. I think the whole list of what we are trapped in. We need to constantly, on a daily basis, fight and sort out our own ignorant, frail nature in order to facilitate the child in the journey of self-discovery. So unless we do that with ourselves on a regular basis, we just cannot do it with the child, because we will be faking it and the child will understand. The child will not be able to be guided by you, because if we are insincere in being able to bring about that consciousness of awareness in our own life, we cannot be authentic with our relationship with the child. Probably it would be in proportion. I mean, that's what I have discovered in my own life. To the extent that I am being conscious, to the extent that I am being sincere, to the extent that I am trying to grapple with my own nature, that when I speak to teachers, my own teacher colleagues and children, that I'm able to establish that sense of authentic connection where they're able to receive what I said and be able to probably work on themselves. Otherwise, it's just lecturing, it is just sermonizing, because we have not experienced it. So the journey of self-discovery, this whole sense of upward movement to uplift ourselves into the higher realms of our higher consciousness towards a divine nature. Very easy for me to address this to all of you. because I'm addressing it to myself. I don't think anybody would disagree that it is very, very, very difficult. This is what sadhana is all about. It happens throughout our life. So it is definitely extremely difficult to sustain the fight against all our lower emotions, the movements, the lower movements which keep pulling us down on a daily basis. And the struggle is very, very great. But this is the only and inevitable path that we need to walk if we truly want to become teachers of integral education. There is no other option, because we should be very clear that integral education is not a method. It is not a packet of strategies and skills of what we can do with children. That does come into play when we are in the classroom to be able to translate the core 3 principles of teaching and the 5-fold education, no doubt about it. But that has to be imbued, permeated by the conscious vision of self-growth all the time. Otherwise, it just falls if there is no spirit in it to sustain that sense of progress. Hence, the teacher needs to be a lifelong learner. And according to the mother, I think we are going to read that, successful traits of a teacher. She puts at the very top that a teacher needs to be a psychologist. We need to understand the child. And in order to understand the child, we need to understand ourselves. I'm sure many of you have come across this. As I said, the mother was the mother who always placed things at the highest capacity. She said a true teacher has to be a yogi. Now, if we imagine that the kind of goal that she had set for the teachers, the demand that she has. So hence the bottom line is, without the teacher embodying and living the principles of integral education, it will not be possible to educate the child integrally. This is something very, very important. The fourth aspect, that of integral education itself, it has, we can say, 3 main principles. Remember what the mother has said in the quotation, that a teacher needs to assiduously help the child to know himself. So based on that, we can lay out 3 most important principles. The first is self-knowledge, self-awareness. Self-knowledge through self-awareness. The second is the awakening of the psychic being. The third, the process of the integration and harmony between the outer nature with the psychic being, with the psychic guidance. So let's take self-knowledge. Again, I believe we are reading The Science of Living. I'm always fascinated as to why the mother started, I don't know whether it's just print. According to me, I think she really sequenced it that way, that in the book, you will find even before the essay on education, she starts writing The Science of Living. So the importance that the mother gave to that process. So what does that essay kind of make us to learn or to be able to acquire is a clear-sighted awareness of how one's own outer being, the mind, the vital, and the physical, function in us. It's a whole bazaar, it's a whole chaos in us, which we are completely unaware of, which are constantly prevailing on our choices, on our communication, on our feelings, on our action. Are we aware of this? It entails a clear understanding of the many strands and influences of one's own being. It entails a clear understanding and training of every domain in the being. All this means a very stringent kind of self-observation. So the training in this self-observation thus becomes the first and foremost critical component of integral education. The second part, awakening of the psychic being. Slowly and progressively, each one needs to learn to adapt, to be able to direct ourselves to becoming aware of this psychic being within us, the divine presence. Now, generally, when I speak to my teachers, of course, this comes across as pretty abstract. So, what do I tell them? I tell them what Sri Aurobindo explained as to be what the nature of a psychic being is. How do we experience the psychic being in our daily life? And he has been very clear in trying to explain that the characteristics and the experience of the psychic being is that of truth, goodness, and beauty in our life. So, always to be able to become more conscious increasingly of that within us which is true, to be able to pursue and seek truth in the realm of the mind, that becomes the center of our function of the mind. Goodness in every feeling that we experience, it has to be around the ideal of goodness. Are we really having thoughts which are going to be good for the other person? So goodness is at the very heart of trying to, the ideal of the vital being. That is the light which has to constantly direct our emotions towards. And the physical, whether the surroundings or our own body, the ideal is of the beautiful. Of course, beauty, I'm sure all of us understand, is not just of the outer cosmetic beauty, but the beauty of the body in terms of health, well-being, in terms of how we keep our surroundings beautiful. I don't think I have to say this to people in Auroville. Everything exudes beauty here, but need to also have that in our body. A sense of balance, a sense of all-round well-being. So, we need to remember this, that everyone has something unique to offer. The divine potential, which we started that quotation with, however small in any field of life. So the uniqueness, we keep referring to the uniqueness of a child, and that comes through the divine potential of any individual. So our true personality, we need to connect with that true personality, that inner personality. That is the psychic presence, psychic being. Contact and be guided by truth, goodness, and beauty. And once we establish this connection, we will see that it has a very powerful transformative effect in our life. So the outer personality is held by the ego, and this needs to be replaced by the psychic center within us, which disassociates itself with the I, me, and the selfishness of trying to hold on to one's ego. So to establish and to connect with this divine presence, that should become the guiding light for the teacher. I'm sure again you must have read, otherwise we will get as a collectivity, otherwise individually you must have read. When we speak of the psychic education, the mother has distinctly differentiated it to spiritual education. There's a lot of confusion between what is the difference. According to my humble understanding, of course, she has explained it quite explicitly in her essay. This psychic being directs itself, connects itself, concerns itself with this experience of truth, goodness, beauty on our daily life. Generally, when I speak of psychic education to my teachers, there's a tendency for most teachers or most people to attribute it to meditation, to some shloka chanting, to something, talking about the divine being or God or gods or something like that. No, that's not what the mother says. The mother has beautifully written out, I think, if I'm not wrong, 11 to 12 important sutras, I would call them, in that essay of the psychic being, which we somehow slip by. Very basic instructions for what to do for children. And obviously that would include all of us adults as well. Please refer to them. I don't, paucity of time, I will not refer to that. Very beautiful in terms of simple habits, simple practices. This is what she has written in the essay of psychic being, psychic education. What more guidance do we need? Simple things like prayer, not talking ill of somebody, not gossiping. Very fundamental, basic things, my friends. So according to her, if we are able to practice those 11 to 12 sutras, we are already walking the path of the psychic education. Otherwise, the feeling of the moment it's psychic, we feel, oh, it's something very far away, very abstract. You have to really give up everything. Yes, of course, she starts with the most powerful of the sutras where she says one has to give up our desires. So I very cleverly put that to the last. But there are all the others which we can practice, which we can follow, and we can make the children to follow. As I said, very basic. Just go to them and you will find, oh, it's so simple. Spiritual education, I think she meant, or that's the way I understood in terms of what she explained, is to talk about the divine presence in the world, in the cosmos, in the universe. So where there is an understanding of divinity, how that is prevalent in the world, in the universe. In fact, she says that can be kept aside. Psychic education for her is essential. The third part, integration. Again, coming back to the fact that bridging, connecting, integrating the outer with the inner is very, very important. We cannot lead a fragmented kind of life. As I said, if we look into ourselves, our mind is saying something, our vital pulls us at something, our physical is incapable of trying to, walk along with the vital and the mind in terms of any decision or any kind of desire or whatever. Everything is at war with each other. So as I said, the integration can happen only when we connect to the higher in us, the highest consciousness in us, which is that of the psychic being. It's a very complex process. The thoughts, the beliefs, ideas, desires, fears, habits, hopes, frustrations, all the time, all these three are in war with each other. So observe this fragmentation. That is what I said in regarding to self-knowledge and the final part, the integration part. And we need to be centered around the psychic principle, which is our highest consciousness. That becomes our reference point. In a simple term, the best of what we are. Keep that as the standard. So are we thinking, feeling, behaving in accordance to the best of what we are? We all know the highest principles which really mean the most to us, which are the dearest to us. So through the day, Mother has given n number of exercises in a book to try to understand, to kind of run through the day. She says, project it like a cinema and then watch yourself through the day. That can give us a clear picture of where and what is the, how did we behave? Is it in accordance to the highest and the best in us? Or did we fall short of that? And why? What made you to say something? What made you to feel something? What made you to think in a certain way? So constantly the integration would mean to manifest the highest in us into our daily activities through work, that is thoughts, manifest truth, feelings, manifest goodness, and the physical manifest beauty. Constant vigilance is demanded of us. Remember the shortest mantra of the Mother and the most powerful. Be conscious. At every moment of our life, be conscious. So this leads us to my last point of self-reflection. So all this would lead us to become better equipped in this whole process of trying to self-observe. In these also we have three parts. Reflection, which is a kind of a quiet concentration and awareness, looking at reflection like in a mirror, understanding oneself in relation with the outer world, with society, with family. What are my thoughts? What are my feelings? How am I kind of taking care of my physical versus what is happening around me in society, in the family, in the community, in the general world at large? Second part, self-observation. First is reflection, second is self-observation about and on the different domains. Observe the action in the inner landscape. Self-knowledge gradually will lead to self-control and eventually to self-mastery. The third part, introspection. Analyzing, questioning one's true motive on a daily basis. Motivation behind our actions. Is it to prevail, establish myself, my goal? Why am I saying these things? Why am I feeling these things? Why am I doing these things? The motivation behind, that is what introspection would all be about. To constantly appraise and evaluate oneself against the best of who we are. We need to have a sincere and honest feedback of ourselves to oneself. Owning responsibility. To what extent am I guided by the psychic principle? Finally, coming to practice. Practice, my dear friends in Auroville, my dear teachers in Auroville, you already have the given environment, which we in the cities do not have that privilege. This space is charged with the divine's presence, is charged with the ideals of the future. It's already there for you to breathe in. For us, we need to struggle to be able to create that environment, physical environment, that psychological, emotional environment, and the spiritual environment. Because that is the best way to nurture and to be able to enable the child to grow towards his or her divine nature. So the physical, the psychological, the emotional, the spiritual environment is already there in all of them. So given that, you can take off from it in a much more vibrant manner. Because in any school, that is the base. 3 principles of teaching. I will not go through that at length, but very important. Again, the important sutras of what Sri Aurobindo gave us. Child cannot be forced to learn. The teacher can only catalyze an awakening of the knowledge already within. We started with this quotation, bring forth. Actually, educe means to bring forth. In Latin, that's what it's supposed to mean. To bring out, which is already latent in the child. No teacher, no adult, nobody actually teaches each other or any child. It is like a plant. We can facilitate the growth of a plant, but you can't be holding the plant and trying to pull it, right? You create the right soil, you expose it to the right sun, you give it the right water and the manure. You can even put a hedge around it. So just the way a plant grows by itself, trust me, all children, every one of us has grown on our own, depending on what the environment has been created. So the first principle of teaching, nothing can be taught, is something which actually Sri Aurobindo is stating as a fact. It is not an empty vessel where you're pouring information. That is the last of the things. Second, of course, the second principle, very, very important for every teacher, as I said, as a psychologist, to know and understand the many needs of the child, the temperament, the style of learning, to consult the child, ask the choices, ask how the child and what is it that the child wants to learn. And the third, from the near to the far, of course, would imply the natural sequence of awakening of knowledge within a child. Learning at one's own pace. Again, this is more possible in Auroville than other schools, because I'm sure you understand the complexities and the challenges we need to face in a formal structured school. Freedom and structure. This is one component I wanted to just share just a couple of thoughts. This is again something which we all grapple with, probably especially in Auroville, even in the ashram in relation to free progress system. What does freedom mean? How do we actually enable the child to learn in an environment of freedom? To my understanding, freedom is referred in relation to the spirit with which the learning happens in the class, to consult the child. But the mother herself was also very strict when she said the freedom for the child to learn should be given whether the child wants to learn or not. Refuse. But once the child wants to learn, the mother also was very particular about a certain discipline framework to be created. Because once the choice is made, without a sense of discipline, the freedom cannot be, brought into play without a sense of structure. The structure needs to be there in the form. You see, in the essay of physical education, purely physical, she also mentions that the mother speaks about 4 principles: order, method, procedure, discipline. All these 4 sustain and fundamental to anything to do with the physical. So obviously when we are doing anything in school, the vision translates itself into working out the physical with physical kind of materials and in a physical manner. We cannot do away with these 4 principles. It may appear very rigid. They are not. You are taking into consideration the choices and the spirit with which you're working with the child. You're not trying to impose. But the moment that is being able to be offered to the child and made the teacher understanding that the child is in evolution and the destiny of the child is in her or his own hands, we are nobody, we are not proprietors. That's what Khalil Gibran says. The children come through us. We don't own the children. Parents can only be partners in being able to bring them into this world. So with that attitude of trying to understand that the child has his or her own destiny, just hand-holding and helping for the child to discover her own destiny is what is important. So freedom of the soul, that is what she means. The mastery over the lower nature. That is the true meaning of freedom. Not allowing oneself to go according to the play of our lower nature. Definitely not. Hence, we come down to these self-reflective practices where every week, if not every day on an individual level, but in a group level, teachers need to constantly reflect upon what happened through the week, to be able to exchange as to whether how best we were able to align ourselves to the highest principles of ideals of integral education. Constantly go back to that. So assess one's own progress in all fields is something which is required to align ourselves to integral education vision and to be able to enable the highest consciousness within us of the psychic to imbibe and permeate our entire being. With this, I'll close and I will just share with you the PPT, some slides of what we do in the school in Hyderabad. Firstly, the entire PPT is covering the different activities which we are doing in Sri Aurobindo International School, which is running its 56th year now, 57th year running. And also a few slides at the end about the school which Sanjeev and his colleague friends visited, called the New Creation, a Free Progress School. These three are the names that we have given to our sections. From nursery to grade 4, we call it as Liberty. From 5th to 7th, we call the section as Harmony. And from 8th to 12th, we call it as Truth, under the natural rhythms of development. So this is in the pre-primary and the primary of what we do in the school. Focus on physical development. Of course, that doesn't entail that we don't have anything to do with the vital and the mental, but prioritizing attention to the physical development through activity and project-based learning. I do, I learn. So a lot of activities in terms of what they do with their hands. So we have the fine motor, gross motor, nutrition, playway method, basic yogasanas, concentration games, rest and sleep. In the middle school, we kind of upgraded to health and well-being, basic sports, yogasanas, cleanliness drives, what's in my bag order, because we try to train the children to take ownership of what's and how they arrange their bags and their desks, and of course, rest and sleep. The third level, health and well-being again, advanced sports, advanced yogasanas. We have Kalaripayattu for students of 10th, 11th, 12th, the martial arts. Then we try to see that everything that they do is under a certain procedure and they are able to be a little more disciplined about the way they function in the school. So these are just photographs of the different activities. We too don't have any uniforms. We don't have exams, formal exams till grade 7. We start formal exams only from grade 8. There are no uniforms for the children. This is the middle school, Harmony section, focus on emotional development, learning to live together. Actually, UNESCO had come up in 2020 with the 4 pillars of education, learning to do, learning to know, learning to live together, learning to be. So I just aligned that with the four concepts of the physical, the vital, and the mental, and the psychic. So we introduce, not that we have even in the pre-primary and the primary, music, Indian vocal, Western vocal, we have pottery, we have lot of crafts, lot of, artwork, and clay work. But in the middle school, we have given many, many more options for, under music, we have keyboard, we have tabla, we have flute, we have Hindustani, we have dramatics, we have dance, we have pottery, we have painting. So we increase the integral development activities, as we call it, in the field of fine arts. So the aesthetic development, songs, rhythm, music, nature joy, beading, paper craft, floral art, patterns, mandala, clay molding, dance, puppetry, theater, sculpturing, drawing, doodling, painting, threadcraft, and many more to explore. So these are some of the things that we do under this. Two components of vital education the mother mentions: the sensorial training, the aesthetic development, along with the character development. So under character development, we have story narration, role play. Swachintan is a process of self-reflection, scriptures, epics, great personalities. We have started something called Pride in India, which is the title introduced by National Education Policy. And in our school, we do many, 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 many. In fact, our school is sometimes criticized by the parents that we do too many activities, a lot of projects around trying to inspire the children and for the children to be better informed about the rich culture and heritage of India. So we have a lot of focus on that. All our annual days are focused on them coming to learn some aspect of Bharat. So this is what I wanted to share with you. You can just see the title called Shandar Shanivar. These days, the government is very particular that there should not be any books on Saturdays. So how do we engage children? So these are the different activities that we do. We have special assembly programs on topics of trying to learn about India, different activities, different clubs. Swachintan again is there. Kavi Sammelan. Now this is something I want to just highlight. We have children reciting in Hindi, Telugu, Sanskrit. On different topics. So we have a lot of poetry recitations that we do. And they come out very, very, brilliantly. Bhagavad Gitakshari, we have Sanskrit right from grade nursery to grade 8 as a compulsory subject. And our children excel in coming up with Antakshari in the Bhagavad Gita, where they are amazing. I mean, I don't have words to describe. If you give them some kind of an English, version, English sentences, they can translate into Sanskrit. If I just say one word, moksha, they will come up with, reciting lines on moksha, on dharma. Amazing. Middle school especially, we have lot of internal house competitions. We have 4 houses in the name of the mothers, 4 aspects: wisdom, power, harmony, and perfection. So we have different school kind of competitions where they're able to really prove their own, learning of Bhagavad Gita. So very, very thorough. And in Telangana, in Hyderabad, many times our school has won the best prize in Sanskrit shlokas and recitations. We have something called the Lit Fest. We promote a lot of literature, a lot of, kind of poetry and, different kind of book reviews so that children are able to be more in connect with literature as such. Celebrating the nation, as I said, we are doing very, very regularly through different activities. So under Shandar Shanivar, most of the school, not most, practically all the children don't bring their bags and we engage them in different activities. So I just brought very, very few pictures. Don't have much time on that. Coming to the high school, focus on intellectual development, task-based learning through faculty development, as Sri Aurobindo calls it. Trying to train them in the faculties rather than the content learning. Observation, expression, we do involve and engage. Compare, contrast, understanding, imagination, ideation, creative thinking, feel and value. And the third part, the analysis, reasoning, application, critical analysis, problem solving, higher order thinking, to think rationally. Of course, these are the high 5 ideals that the mother has written under mental education. You would all know. Very important, but we do try to see that we are able to be aware of these guidelines and try to promote these practice to some extent in the high school. Of course, children also, we have a beautiful meditation hall with Sri Aurobindo's relics there. So children, once in a while, the teacher feels the children are very disturbed. The children are just taken to the meditation hall and just made to sit quietly for a few minutes and then come back to class. We have uniforms for the afternoon sports. That's why you'll see some children in the uniform. Now, this is again the self-reflection part. Know thyself, own thyself. Learn to be. The psychic development enables the child to know himself and herself. Breathe, pray, recite. The magic mirror, I will just share with you a sample of the reflective, kind of handouts that we have given to the children. Chant, me time, Swadarpan also is a reflective sheet for the middle school. And the final one, concentrate, Swalokan, introspect, regular self-appraisal. Yeah, these are the different kind of just a sample of the grade 1 and the middle school. Basically, for the younger ones, we made it very basic for a recall of what they have done on a physical level, included a little more, observation about their emotional state of being for the middle school. And for the high school, we have something a little further in terms of what is the nature of their thoughts, what is the preoccupation mentally, what are they watching, whether they're okay watching that or not, etc., etc. So these are just some samples of the self-reflective sheets that we have. The next. Now here is something I wanted to share with all of you for teachers. I'll be fine, Rajiv and Jyoti, to give you these handouts. I have them printed so that you can share it with the teachers as what we have come up with. So these are teacher self-reflection rubrics. So in different domains, we have worked this out. We try not to do this in a very rigid, formal way because that would again lose out on the teacher's sense of spontaneity and sincerity. We make it like once in a while, but we try to do it with sincerity whenever we do it so that it's not kind of too much of a routine for the teachers as well. Yes? The previous one, I'll share it with all of you. Just a word for new education policy. I'm sure all of you are aware of these new structures. The existing academic system meant formally, and now the new academic system, including nursery. Now the mandatory rule is that the child will not enter grade 1 until the child has completed 6 years by May 30th of that year, of that academic year.
So then the levels go till no more 10th. If you notice, it is nursery to grade 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. NEP is going to move towards cancelling the 10th board exams and directly coming up with a final 12 board exams. And they have already mentioned this, that kind of taking surveys in different schools in the country. This is what already they have sent books called Foundation Literacy and Numeracy FLN for the primary till grade 5. Already we have received books where, as you see in the heading, the National Initiative Proficiency in Reading with Understanding and Numeracy, they're trying to promote this as far as possible across the country. And they have come up with excellent guidelines. Just next slide, please. Yeah, so their main, kind of principles is health and wellness, effective communication, involved learning. If you see, it may be a little stretched, but we kind of aligned health and wellness to physical development in different aspects of integral education, effective communication in relation to the vital, communication of your emotions, of your thoughts, the expression, power of expression, and involved learning in a bit more of a mental engaged learning. So these are the 3 things that we try to align with IE. Now this is again, actually I had invited Rajiv and the other colleagues to have a seminar on this, because I have studied national education policy as far as it's concerned related to school education, school curriculum, and we see a lot of parallels to integral education. In fact, just to share an information, in 2020, Prime Minister Modi in his Mann Ki Baat, I think on 28th or 29th November, on a national platform declared that national education policy has been inspired by Sri Aurobindo's essay on national education, which Sri Aurobindo wrote in 1920, exactly 100 years back. So the members of the national education policy took into consideration the basic ideals and principles of what Sri Aurobindo wrote in that essay, and that has definitely been instrumental in shaping the major policies of NEP. So I have come up with showing a lot of parallels between what integral education is about and what NEP 2020 offers. Parak is a very interesting, the 360-degree multidimensional based on Parak. The evaluation and assessments are never going to be purely mark-oriented in schools. They're taking into consideration the overall development and growth of children. Very good. And in fact, they've already started sending to all the schools different assessment rubrics and sheets for them to know how the schools are going to be able to adapt themselves to this new evaluation system. So these are the worksheets, TLMs, assessments. Very important that we have designed this to be able to come up with making worksheets to direct ourselves to these 3 different aspects. For as learning, we call it as learning, which can be typically learning sheets, activities, and tasks that enable self-learning. For learning is basically designed for practice of learned concept. And the third is off learning, where we are able to design things of how children apply their knowledge and understanding of the concept. So we work in the primary levels with a lot of designing of worksheets. We have minimal, if not no textbooks, except for English and Telugu and Hindi. For mathematics and projects, as we call it, environmental studies, we have based ourselves more on creating a lot of games and design worksheets for the children to learn. This is something, again, I'm very proud to share with all of you, that we have a cell called Ojas and Tejas. We believe in an inclusive vision of learning. So we have specially abled children. Since last 24 years, we have been running this. It's one of the most unique models in Hyderabad. Many of the other schools send their teachers to come and learn as how we are, kind of really helping these children with special abilities. We had 20 children till last year. We have added 10 more. We have 30 children with 4 special educators. And we see that for the different kind of activities, they club themselves with the regular stream, and for academics, we have special coaching for them, where the National Indira Gandhi Open School exams are facilitated for them to appear. Our school has become a center for many of the children who are not registered in other schools, for them to come and give exams under the name of our school. And also glad to mention that National Education Policy has, how should I say, is facilitating examination for specially able children. They have absolutely changed the rules for them. They want to make them to be included in the examinations. The corrections are going to be much more, easier on them. And they are very, how should I say, very earnestly trying to include the special child into the mainstream. So these are our main factors or under which we work. Okay, this is again a sheet which I will share with all of you. I'll just hand it over to Jyoti so that you can make prints out. This is again a latest rubric that I've done for teachers under towards self-knowledge. Next, please. So all these are just explaining what I just now shared with all of you about reflection, observation, introspection. Again, 12 questions that I have just framed so that teachers are helped to walk this path of self-reflection. Yeah, this is the last slide. Can you please run the other slide? They're just pictures of the residential school. I'll really be happy to share this with all the teachers in Auroville. It's just pictures, nothing else. Yeah, this is the campus. Not very clear, but sorry, couldn't do much with this. Yeah, just keep turning the pictures, please. Next. This is the area in the where kindergarten to grade 2 children have classes. So they're set up. Just some, to just get some, this is a small arena. This is a basketball court. These are hostels. This is our amphitheater. Some small guest rooms. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chaladi, for reminding us of many things that we do, and also seeing the parallels of what we do here with what is being done in many other places. But this place I've been to, so I remember each of these places. I left this last because she's sort of inviting you to come there, which is where we stayed. So yeah, so they welcome people to come and stay and share and help them to learn. And yeah. So usually we'll take question answers, but we are a little late. So she's here. You can ask her questions throughout the day, but if there's any burning question, maybe 2 questions we can take. Practical questions, what you can do, 2 questions. Otherwise, you can meet her throughout the day. Okay, I'll just give another minute and then we will move. 1 minute if anyone comes up, otherwise, going.
As I said, we try to be as informal as possible, especially from grade nursery to grade 2 to grade, as I said, till grade 4, we don't have even textbooks for, no formal textbook for science or, math or social. So we have only for languages. So we create content and we engage them in a lot of play, because play is something which every child loves. You said that every child loves to learn. Absolutely true. But we kind of undermine that through creating a lot of formal learning generally in schools. So we have left that completely out, and we have 6 areas of development for nursery to grade 2. So we have more something like knowledge and understanding, creative area, and then mathematics. So under different areas of development, we try to see that they are engaged more in trying to do things on their own through different activities and games. So not trying to bring in the mental learning, in terms of trying to make it very formal. So we try to go the indirect way to be able to make them to learn about the concepts, and they learn it very fast. So it's a question of how the teachers approach the topic and the subject and how they teach. So I make it a point to ensure that we are kind of sidelining the formal learning as far as possible, but keeping in mind the set outcomes that are expected of grade 1 and 2. We clarify the outcomes to ourselves and see how the teachers can design lessons to be able to meet those outcomes. End of the day, we can't be just not meeting the basic outcomes that are required at every grade. Yeah, it's a whole process. So it's something which I'll be happy to kind of talk to you at length on a more personal level. But the main focus is not to make it very formal. Lot of play. So children learn through play. So optimizing that. I have a feeling in Auroville that's least of the problems. I'm sure you do that a lot.
Any other immediate questions?
I heard that you graduated from the ashram school, and so has been this longest integral education experiment in the ashram, and in Auroville you may know some of it. And in your educational experience, how would you say that there are things in common that we can all reflect on, and also what could be each one's uniqueness? And the second question is, how do you align with as school teachers, align with the parents in creating a really holistic environment at school and at home for the children's growth? Thank you.
Yes, first to respond to the question of, I feel first thing, our commonality is the inspiration from Sri Aurobindo Mother. That is our source. That's the reference point. But the whole idea is that every institution has to be working it out differently. We cannot see now that even if I share something and you share something with us, it has to be made something local to our own environment and need. We cannot just transport something which is being done here, and I cannot transport something which is being done in Auroville to Hyderabad. It just doesn't work. That's one of the first thing I realized. So yes, it was thanks to my experience, in the ashram school, and happy that I could revisit the entire process because my daughter also studied for 18 years in the ashram school. So along with her, I went back to that route and I was able to gather and draw as to how the school actually functions in the ashram school, especially for the resource room and all that in terms of what the variety of games and the worksheets that they do. So in terms of the materials, I was able to draw that through my child's learning as well. But it has to be all done on your own, in your own area. You cannot transport, it just fails. So we have to rethink about what makes sense to the teachers there, what makes sense to the parents there, and what makes sense for us to work things out. I really walk the tightrope because I am doing it between the formal and the informal. So for the first 3 years when I introduced this, first we had a regular state school syllabus. It was going as a regular school. Once I entered into this whole thing in 93 and took upon myself that I had to struggle a lot with parents. So we started with 1 or 2 sections, but it is through example and being able to see their own children doing excellently well that other parents towed the line, because they see deep inside the parents know what is really education all about. It's just that their whole sense of insecurity when they start comparing one with the other. So just quickly to tell you the results, our batch of 30 students dwindled to 11 students by the time they reached 10th grade because all the parents took them away. They said, oh, this method is too much of freedom. Ye sab kuch nahi hota. So they took away 19 of them. But all the 11 passed, so the parents were happy. Second year, out of 30, we had 18 students or 20, 21 students. 9 students left. The parents could not take it. Third year, we had 30 out of 30. So all the 3 years, a hat trick, we proved that our children did very well despite all the freedom that we gave them and all the so-called extra activities that they did. So then, in fact, after 3 years, the other sections of the regular school, the teachers and parents, especially teachers, said, you are giving us a stepmotherly treatment. We also want to get into the new creation. That time I used to call it the new creation kind of a section. Okay. So then I said, fine, because the purpose of the Institute of Human Study, which is the parent body running the school, was not commercial. So I said, if the proper way of education is not going to work out, I don't mind closing the school. I don't want to run the school just as a regular school. It doesn't interest me. So if I'm going to take up the responsibility, it has to go through this process only. So I did that, and then it went on very well. Till date, we have completed 20 years with no single student failing in 10th grade, with all excellent results. So the parents are very happy, and so now, in fact, it's difficult to get admission into our school because they all know that we have a balance between play, between co-curricular activities, addressing the development of the true core values, aligning and informing, educating them about the Indian culture and tradition, and academically doing excellently. So it takes time, but still it's a great challenge. I'm totally not undermining that. Parents, as long as it suits them, are with you. But the moment there are choices, then they go back to the old at 11th, 12th grade, they move out. It's an ongoing journey. So for teachers, the only way is to have a constant connection with them. And that's my work. I'm constantly reorienting them again and again, trying to make them to get back to the source, the inspiration of Sri Aurobindo and the mother.